Hey everyone, Adam here. In today's video, what we're going to be covering is a $1 million Pinterest case study and essentially going over the exact account structure, exact audiences, overview of the ads, and some also other details of what didn't work as well too. So that way, you guys get to get a little bit of a sneak peek inside of a account that's a little bit more scaled up and a bit more established. So without further ado, let's dive straight into it. So basically, what we're going to be covering first is the numbers. So as you can see here, basically started with this account in May 6th on Pinterest, and then these are basically the results for the remainder of the year up until December 31st, 2022. Who knows? Might have to make another video this May 6th for a year reunion for it. And basically, one thing to note too as well with these are in Canadian dollars. So probably just shy of $1 million USD, but in Canadian dollars, 1.26 million, so a little bit more than a million, I guess. And you can see here, basically $309,000 spent to bring back a total return ad spend of 4.09. And if you can see here in the back end, you can see here $309,000 spent. Total ROAS is 4.09, and then the total order value checkout was $1.26 million. So let's get into the rest of the stuff here. So basically what we're going to cover is basically the account structure, the exact targeting, like literally the exact keywords, interests, and all that kind of stuff. That way you can get an exact sneak peek of what it looks like. What was tested that didn't work. Also an overview of the ads, and then just some extra details as well too. So let's get into it. So first things first, campaign structure. This is essentially what the campaigns look like in the back end. You can see all the numbers here as well too. I'll move my screen out of the way. So this does look a little bit confusing, but essentially you can see here that we're basically targeting US and we're targeting Canada. So majority of the campaigns are Canada compared to the US. It's a Canadian brand, does a lot better in Canada than it does in the US. And you can see here we basically have basically the country for each one, and then where they are in the funnel. So hot basically means they've already been to the website, they're already engager, and all that kind of stuff. And then basically cold is people have never heard of the brand before. Now this does look a little confusing, so I'm just going to break it down in a bit of more of a visual diagram. So you can see here, basically, we have all the campaigns that are running. These are the Evergreen campaigns. I'll cover the promo campaign setup. But you can see here in the US, we have essentially cold campaign 1 checkout, cold campaign 2 checkout, and cold campaign 3 checkout. So we had 3 cold traffic campaigns, and we have 1 hot retargeting campaign. So in terms of the cold traffic ones, 2 of them basically have interest in keywords, which I'll show you those in a sec of what they were. And then one of them was basically a purchase lookalike. So basically over the last 180 days, everyone has purchased and basically tracked on the pixel, and then basically making a lookalike of people who look like those people, and that performed quite well. And then these 2 basically are more just with the interest in keywords, like I was saying. And then for the hot, we didn't do a catalog for this one too. We are looking to maybe integrate that as well. The issue is it mix Canadian and American products together in the catalog. We're trying to fix it, but at the end of the day, this is done like, I think it was like 250,000 in sales with over a 4 ROAS. So it's still working quite well, this setup. And basically what this is basically retargeting page visitors 180 days, which I'll show you how that's set up in a moment. And then basically add to cart 180 days. And then essentially for this one, each of them have 4 photo ads. Essentially offering like a little discount code as well, and then they basically just have like the logo on each photo, and then just kind of the discount code retargeting on there, so, or the discount code messaging on there essentially. So that's basically what the US looks like. So if we scroll over here to Canada, for this one here, we have 4 campaigns that are going towards cold traffic, and then we have 3 for retargeting. I'll get to in a second why there's so many, but so basically for Canada, we have 3 of the 4 campaigns that are in cold traffic that are basically interest in keywords, and then 2 of them are basically optimizing for checkout, and this one's optimizing for add to cart. Now it is something good to test out. Sometimes add to cart will actually perform better than checkout, so it is something to test out. And in this case, the add to cart actually did quite well. And then here you can see we basically did 1 add to cart campaign, and it's actually broad. So there's no narrowed down interest. It's literally everything in the US. And then basically what we did is we narrowed down all of the interests that were kind of underperforming a little bit, and essentially kind of trimmed it down to a really good selection of interests that do really well. I wouldn't actually recommend this if you don't have that big of a budget. these guys, they have a decent budget, so we were able to do it. But if you don't really have that big of a budget, I would stick with lookalikes or stick with interest and keywords. I'd honestly mainly stick with interest and keywords to start, and then kind of move in. The lookalike you can probably test out if you have more data and stuff like that. But in the meantime, you'll be more than set with those. And then in terms of the retargeting, for this one here, very similar setup to the US one. So essentially four photo ads, all with a small discount code, and then basically a logo on each one, etc., etc. We had another one that was basically a catalog setup, and it basically is retargeting anyone who's been to the quiz. We built out like a landing page for that, kind of takes customers through a bit of a quiz, and then at the end kind of recommends products based off of what they what they answered in the quiz. Works really well for some brands. And you can basically see here, we basically retargeting everyone who's been to the quiz essentially with a catalog. So it almost dynamically shows them where, like, the reason why we do catalog, because it literally dynamically shows them what came out on the quiz. And then basically because obviously they went to that product page at the end. And so it basically just dynamically shows them. So it works quite well. And then you can see here basically retargeting with the consideration objective as well too. So basically a traffic campaign, and then basically only retargeting page visitors. So we did this as well as this one here. They both work, so why not leave them both running essentially. And then this one here, I think the reason why the quiz retargeting worked really well in Canada and it didn't in the US, I'll get to that near the end, but I think it's because the catalog was able to kind of dynamically show what people wanted. So that's kind of a look at the high level overview of it. So hopefully that kind of clears it up. And then basically whenever there's a promo, what we do is we set up 4 campaigns essentially on Pinterest. We'll do 2 campaigns for Canada and 2 for the US, and then basically one of them's going towards cold traffic and then one of them's retargeting. So pretty simple setup. And then instead of doing daily budgets, we actually do lifetime. And the reason for that is because if they're always going to be during a certain time period, they're going to start, let's just say February 15th and end on February 30th. So it's much better to set like $1,000 budget as an example for that, and let Pinterest kind of decide on a day-to-day when it's getting more conversions to spend more, rather than a daily budget of, let's just say, $75. It has to spend $75 every single day. So it's better to let the lifetime budget kind of dictate when it's going to spend. So we found that works a lot better for the promo campaign. And then it's basically the setup for this, and we make dedicated ads for it here. All right, so in terms of retargeting setup, this is basically what it looks like. You can see here in the hot retargeting, you can see basically we have the add to cart, and then we had the page visitors. So page visitors right now is paused. I think it was underperforming a little bit recently, so we ended up pausing that for now. We might bring it back or launch some new ads to it, but right now add to cart is just absolutely killing it, over 10 ROAS. And you can see here basically this is how it looks when you go into it. So you go to when you're in the targeting section, you basically just go to audience list and you select add to cart essentially. We actually had 2 of them that were there, and one of them was 36,000, one was 50,000. So we essentially just selected both of them, but that's essentially what it looks like there. And then for Canada, we did the catalog. Remember in the US, we didn't really do it because it kind of mixes the products, so we haven't really gotten to it. But essentially what you do for that is you select catalog sales in the conversion in the basically the campaign objective. And then once you get to the targeting section, you actually select dynamic retargeting, and then just make sure that product, page visits and products added to cart is selected as well too. And then basically 180 days ago, that's basically kind of the setup there for that. Now, in terms of the prospecting, I'll show you here the Canada Broad. So basically this one here, what you want to do is if you go into the ad group section, so once you click on the campaign, you go to the ad group section, you can see here basically you want to select targeting breakdown. And then what you do is you go to, it basically opens up this section here, and then you just select interests. And then what it's going to do is going to give you all the interests. And typically what we like to do is we like to sort it by total ROAS. And then you can see here, animals, architecture, food and drinks, home decor, beauty. We basically want to keep all the best ones that are like doing at least like a 2.75 or maybe over a 3 ROAS. We have kept some of these as well, but this is last year's data. We basically just keep refining it essentially. So that's basically what you have to do, and then just give it like at least 7 days before you start deciding what to do. And then you want to basically base it off of the ROAS, and enough data. Like it's got to have spent enough based off of your metrics and your unit economics. Like it may be a lot different if your average order value is $75 or if it's $500. Like you got to map it out and based off your margins and everything. So I can't give you an exact answer on what I'd recommend for that. It really depends on your situation, your brand, your margins, all that kind of stuff. Now, in terms of the broad, if you do want to go ahead and trim it down, what you do is you just edit the campaign, and then you come in here and you basically just unselect based off what's not working well. So say, for instance, women's fashion wasn't performing well. You can just go in here and just uncheck it, and then just hit save edits, essentially. And then you'll basically you'll stop targeting that interest and it won't, yeah, and basically that's basically how you kind of do it in order to kind of optimize the campaign and make sure you're sending traffic to the best interests. Now, in terms of keywords, we also stack those as well too. But you can actually, or sorry, here's basically a full look at the interests here in Canada. Basically, for the exact interests we had animals, architecture, event planning, and then wedding for interests. And I'll show you the keywords in a second. I thought this slide was on the keywords. But that's basically what we have set up there. And then in terms of the keywords, you can see all the keywords that we have selected. So anything like remotely close to dogs, dog tattoo, dog, we basically like loaded the boat. We did like 99 of them. And you can see here, basically just maxed it out. And then anything to do with puppies, and all that kind of stuff. So we basically just stacked all of them. This is basically, you can pause the video, take a look at them. And then same thing here. So what you can do is you can go to the targeting breakdown. Instead of interest, this time you select keyword, and it's going to select all the keywords. And once again, you can select ROAS, and you can basically have all the keywords that have basically spent money, and you can see exactly how they perform. And yeah, some of them will do really well. You can see here, this one, dog room, has 12 conversions, has 1,700 in sales with a 10 ROAS. Beauty dog has 30 conversions, 3,000 in sales with a 7.88. So you can really see what does well there as well too, and also trim down what's underperforming as well. So kind of want to go over what was tested that didn't work, just kind of give you guys some context. So, not everything that we just put up there just works really well. Some things underperform, and you gotta kill what doesn't work. At the end of the day, that's marketing for you. So you can see here, basically broad cold traffic campaign in the US didn't really work as well. I think, well, just maybe we don't have enough data yet in the US, but Canada worked quite well. And I think when we launched Canada, it was around like a 1.5 ROAS. And then over time, when we trimmed down the interest, we were able to basically double the campaign as ROAS and got it to about a 3 ROAS. And I think last year we did like 295,000 in sales just off that one campaign. So we obviously want to see if we can make it work in the US, but we really couldn't. When it first started off, I think it was around a 0.4 ROAS. So with that, like, yeah, sure, we can maybe optimize it and get it to like maybe a 1 ROAS, but at the end of the day, the interest in keywords were performing a lot better. The lookalike was performing a lot better, so we really focused on those audiences instead and optimizing those rather than trying to force the broad to work really well. Basically, optimizing for add to cart instead of checkout in the US. So you can see here in Canada, we had multiple campaigns that did quite well with optimizing for the add to cart objective rather than checkout. And yeah, for the US, it just didn't really perform. So yeah, no point trying to force it. And then basically sending traffic to a quiz in the US didn't actually do too well on cold traffic. And then of course, retargeting quiz viewers in the US, didn't do too well either. And like I was mentioning earlier, I think it's because of the catalog that was set up. So, or we didn't have a catalog set up essentially for the US for the retargeting the quiz viewers. So I think, missing out on that dynamic opportunity to show exactly what, popped out on the quiz. And then, yeah, it's just totally custom and works really well for them. So I think that's why it underperformed. So, and then this other summer moments campaign that was recommended by a Pinterest rep completely underperformed. I think it was like a 0.3 ROAS, spent like, well over $1,000 or something like that. Yeah, completely bombed, but yeah, that's what happens sometimes in these Pinterest reps. So I don't know. Yeah, that's basically what happened there though. In terms of the ads, For cold traffic, primarily video ads performed really, really well. Videos that perform really well in Meta tend to do really well in Pinterest. So that's something to note too if you're running traffic on Meta as well. And then basically what we did is we added a logo, kind of what I talk about in other videos. We added a caption on some of the videos as well too. And then a few of them will add like a little shop now button, kind of just like a clean little shop now button at the bottom. That's like nice font and everything. It looks clean. We just kind of add that in. And then for retargeting, we had catalog ads and photo ads that did better. And then basically we just added a nice little coupon code, about 10% off for people who have actually been to the site, trying to push them over the edge. And for retargeting, there's different things. Like if you're a much more premium brand, by no means, you don't have to do a discount code. You just got to kind of figure out, maybe why they haven't bought yet. It could be that they just don't trust the brand yet, so maybe a nice little review ad could do really well. Maybe they just kind of forgot, so just kind of a reminder ad could do really well. Maybe they have a bunch of questions, so maybe a bit more of a Q&A style ad could do really well. So you kind of just got to get in the mind of the customer and see why they haven't bought yet. Maybe kind of test out some different angles essentially based off that, and kind of go ahead and launch that. And then basically we also added the logo plus call to action with the code edited onto the photos, like I was mentioning. And then basically catalog ads was really, really key for retargeting, especially in Canada as well too. And then just some extra details. How long to leave campaigns running when testing? I would say at least 7 days. And then you want to look at it and analyze the data. But be patient, waiting for data on this platform. It takes time. This is not like the other platforms where it's like pretty instant. You got to be pretty patient and make sure, you want to wait like a good amount of time. I'd say at least 7 days before you even like make any adjustments. And same thing with narrow down interests. I would wait at least 7 days before you start trimming down on underperforming interest. And then you want to base this off of like the spend, how many impressions does that get, how many clicks, and like if it's just spending a lot and it's just underperforming, you got to eventually just cut it out of the campaign and trim it down essentially. How much to scale by? We typically scale by about 20% each day. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but trust me, when you do that daily, it adds up to being quite a bit. It'll start kind of having a bit of a compound effect. If you think about the stock market, it's the same kind of deal. Some of the campaigns we got to, a couple $100 a day. And with all those campaigns added up together, it adds up to being, quite a bit. I think the biggest campaign we have is about almost $400 a day. And then some of them are like 100, 150, 200. So get you thinking bigger. You don't want to just be spending $20 a campaign. You want to start scaling it up essentially if it starts performing well. And yeah, you got the budget for it essentially. And then how much to spend on prospecting versus retargeting. Typically the split we'll do is about 70% prospecting, 30% retargeting. Sometimes it'll be 80% prospecting, 20% retargeting. It really depends on the brand. Like for them, we're also running Snapchat, we're running Facebook and Instagram. So we got all these platforms. We got this, that it's something to note too as well of where you're spending how much traffic is being sent there and all that kind of stuff. So you got to kind of look at the full picture and see what makes sense essentially for the brand. So overall, that wraps it up. If you have any questions regarding that, go ahead and drop them down below. But other than that, thank you so much for watching the video, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much for watching.